Rockcliffe, gee, that was strong by Rockcliffe. That is a terrific goal.
Fantasia or Fantasia?
Roaming Orazio. Orazio Fantasia!
I wonder how far we've got to go back to see when time on was allowed for a pig on the ground.
Welcome back to Rock and Raz. We do have a new name. We'll get to that in a minute. I'm Tom Rockcliffe. This is Orazio Fantasia. How are you?
Not bad, Rock. Just finished a run, actually, so feeling good.
I've seen you out there running, moving very well, I must say.
I wouldn't say very well. It's not getting a little bit too excited, but no, it's definitely nice to be running again. It's been a little while, and I'll still be a little while off, but it's nice to get out there and run again.
No, you've looked very good and making fast improvement, which is very good. We've also got Daniel Norton behind the scenes here today. We may lean on him a little bit later, but let's get in the show. We do have a new name. It's called Rock the Razbar.
How good's that?
Rock the Razbar. So we had plenty of feedback through the club socials, YouTube channel, Twitter, Instagram. There was lots of love to keep at the Rock and Raz Show.
Which we don't mind, but I like that even Koshy jumped in and a Rock and Razzer. Not bad.
Not bad from the chairman himself. Well, there was a lot of nominations for the Pearcast, Powercast, Portcast. Just a little bit boring for us. So we wanted to mix it up a little bit. And we've decided on Rock the Razbar. So that's a good choice. It's a bit of a play on words. So we do have a new name and really looking forward to where this podcast may end up. The winner has won a team-signed jersey, and that goes to Terry Dactyl.
Terry Dactyl? Was that a...
Well, I'm not sure if it's a bit of a G-up. I'm not sure it's their real name, but we will make contact. It was on YouTube that they took place, and that's the winner that's been decided by you and me. We decided pre-show that was the one we were going to go with.
Well done to Terry.
Now, we've got to talk a little bit of footy. There was a few comments made by myself in today's paper, and I think everyone can read that and have a look at that feedback. We'll move on reasonably quickly from that.
Might I say that you've been a little sheepish around the joint today?
I've been
from that.
very, very quiet today. I snuck in the side door, tried to avoid everyone that I could and try and get this show and quickly get out of here before anyone sees me. I know there's going to be a little bit of backlash from that, but oh well, I've got to earn a living, don't I, Raz?
Pay the bill somehow.
Got to pay the bill. So we move on to the Showdown this Friday night, tomorrow night, 7:50 p.m. at Adelaide Oval. Let's fire up, and can we get our first win for the year, please?
I think we can. I think we reviewed the game pretty hard. You know, some areas we wanted to focus on, especially sort of in that forward half, and I know your article and how we're moving the ball. So we did touch a lot on that and a bit on the defence as well. So I think this week's our week to really fire up. You know how big those games are. You played in a few yourself, so you know.
Showdowns are huge. I probably should have won 3 Showdown medals if the truth be known, Orazio. I think I had 40-odd, 38, 36. The only way you can win a medal playing for Port Adelaide is to have the name Robbie Gray or Travis Boak. So, unfortunately, I didn't have one of those names, so I never won one.
Can we get, Norts, can you get the exact stats?
Look, I will. Actually, we've got another Showdown medalist coming up a little bit later on, though.
Oh, Showdown medalist coming on a little bit later. We certainly do. Coming up on today's show, we have Justin Westhoff. Oh, as you can see here, the 39, the Westhoff. What a champion player he was. He played 280-odd games, so we can't wait to speak to him. Rachel Sporn, who's involved with the AFLW. I believe she is the footy manager equivalent, team manager of the AFLW. We'll get to the fans' questions. That's exciting. Really enjoy the feedback from the fans, don't we, Orazio?
Yeah, correct. We've got a lot of questions, and hopefully they can keep coming from the socials, and we'll answer a few today, but not too hard-hitting. Just they're pretty... Even Joshy Sin's piped in. So we'll get around that.
Well, I'm a little bit concerned about his question. It's a little bit off track of what we want to talk about, but we might have to do a bit of research on his questions. We've got a rant coming up as well. What's really got under our skin this week? Talk a little bit about pranks as well and where they've ended up now that I've gone and some of the better ones that I've played on a few different boys at the footy club. Also, we're going to get to the Friday night footy review.
Not that.
And who won and who lost. And we'll also put on another bet for next week. There is a little bit of a punishment coming up later on for the loser of that. And as we know, I may have won that.
Are we rolling that on? Or is it a punishment each week?
That will continue on. So let's rip into the show.
Let's do it.
This place is different. It has a soul, a heartbeat. It gets into your senses. It's more than football. It's belonging.
Okay, welcome back to Rock the Raz Bar. We've got our special guest, Justin Westhoff.
Oi!
Hey, welcome.
Thank you for having me, boys. I thought I was a bit of an audition for the third host.
Oh.
Third host. Well, you're about our 15th guest that we wanted, but we had to settle for you because
Yeah, all
everyone
right.
else cancelled today.
They did, didn't they? But
Last
that's
man
okay.
standing.
We've got a beautiful special guest. I'm going to give you a bit of a pump up here to start. You were taken at pick
Beauty.
71.
Yep,
All the best slide, they say. So there's that.
Certainly do.
that's what they say.
You quickly became a cult figure at the club. You played 280 games in nearly every posse on the ground. What was your favourite posse there?
Favourite posse is probably out there in the wing.
Yeah? Like
Not-
the wing?
Not dealing with too many opponents, just running your own race. is
Running
always
your own
nice.
race.
Yeah.
Well, you kicked a few goals as well, 313.
A few goals, yeah.
A few snags, so you didn't mind kicking a few goals. And you won the 2018 John Cale medal. And Can quoted that night saying, "I've never known a more deserving player." So
Oh,
that's
there you
pretty
go.
special. What does that mean to you?
That was a brilliant night. It's always nice to win a couple of those over your journey. So I hadn't win too many before that, so it was nice to do something in my career. So
Don't be silly, mate. Don't be silly. And you're back working at the club. How are you finding that?
yeah, it's been really enjoyable. The transition's been really good from playing to, I guess, coaching to some extent and doing a bit with you boys in
Yep.
player welfare. So it's been nice to sit up in the balcony and watch you guys run laps throughout the last 18 months. But no, it's still really good to be involved and looking forward to a little bit more working closely with you guys. So it's exciting.
You're doing a bit more with the playing group now, is that right?
Yeah, more so with our next generation guys and our father sons. But yeah, working with Paul Short here as well, giving him a bit of a helping hand in the player welfare, sorting out all these young boys. It's more problems than I thought there'd be. But
Who's been the biggest pest there?
Oh.
We won't mention names, maybe.
I can't say.
Probably can't
Loose
go
lips.
into that.
Think ships.
I want to speak to you about your charity work because we know you gave up a lot of your time throughout your career and you've done outstanding things off the field in that space. We spoke to a guy last week, Sean Burgoyne, who's got his finger in every pie in Adelaide.
Yeah,
You're
certainly
not
does.
far behind, but your charity work that you do, can you just talk us through how you got involved in that and the things you've been involved in the past and how can we get involved or have a look at them?
Yeah, so I probably started a little business called Forage Supply Co. about 5 years ago with a good mate of mine from the Barossa Valley, Scotty. It kind of all stemmed from starting a wine label up back then, and then it kind of snowballed into what are we doing within the community that obviously helps our business, but just gives us a great opportunity to give back with what we can do through business, I suppose. So we started a little wine brand, which is so much better than Hey Diddle.
And you actually give back to charity,
Yeah,
not
exactly
like Hey
right.
Diddle.
Yeah,
They're
they-
filling their pockets.
Take. But so a part of our business, we started a little food truck and a few school-based community gardens around SA. So what we were trying to do is feed everything back into our business with, I guess, educating kids on where their food comes from and giving them opportunity to go outside and see and grow fruit in their own backyard. But we ended up buying the fruit and veg back off them and putting it through our food truck through festivals around SA. So, and then also now being able to employ people experiencing homelessness, if I can say it properly, through particular pathways here in SA, through Hut Street, where we can provide them with paid work through us, and then hopefully gearing them up and doing some sort of qualification in hospitality. So it's just giving back in that front, and framework in your business in different ways that can support other people throughout. So, but yeah, the big part of that now is we just started up a business called Forage Built, which is hopefully a transitional housing solution for homeless people here in South Australia. So that's been a big part of probably my last 12 months at the club and going forward. So that's down in Tasting Australia and around SA. We're doing a bit of a tour with our prototype that we just built at the moment. So that's exciting. Hopefully we can get that off the ground and showing a bit of awareness on that front as well.
So the social media is Forage Supply, is that correct?
Forage Supply Co.
On
Yep.
Instagram and Twitter?
Instagram.
Facebook.
Or just Instagram?
All those things.
All the channels,
Yes.
okay. So
Yep.
if you want to get involved, listeners, have a look there and get involved. It's great work that you do.
Buy some
Westy away
wine
from the
too.
field.
Get
Bit
Get
of
the
wine.
wine in there. Yeah, that's the main thing.
Incredibly caring, man, aren't you, Westy? We're going to bring you back to footy. A big week
Yep.
this week against the Crows. You played in a few showdowns. What is your biggest sort of memory in those games?
It's probably it's probably fair to say it hasn't been built up. It's definitely still built up, but
Yep.
it's not probably what it used to be, just with the true rivalry of what it used to be. I probably grew up with the Cornses and that kind of,
Yep.
the Ramsgate and all that kind of stuff.
Can we talk
that
about the
pure
Ramsgate
rivalry.
rumble,
No,
or-
I wasn't there, so let's just leave that. But
Yep.
it's just a good time to play footy here in South Australia. You always wanted to win. When you come off a bad loss in a showdown, you tend to hide away for the next 2-3 weeks around town. So otherwise you're getting heckled or eggs are landing on your house. So I've had a bit of that over time. So it's always a game that you really wanted to win. Even more so for the guys at the moment, setting up that season, getting back on track. So I always used to love it, and to play in a away showdown as well, that was always the best game to play.
There has been a little bit of that this week, a bit of hiding away. So the boys need to get up and about and get this win this week. You, I believe, were fined for giving the crowd the bird in a showdown. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah. I got stitched up for that too because it wasn't on the telecast, and so the umpires didn't know about it. It's some rubbish AFL photographer ended up posting it on the AFL website, and he probably cost me about a couple of grand for that. So
Never forgive for things like that.
never.
Could have got away with that. Now, Westy, I want to talk about your home life. You have 15 kids at home. I'm at home with 2 at the moment.
Yes.
You've got, how many kids do we have?
I've got
5?
4.
4 kids.
4, yep.
I'm at home struggling with 2. Is there any advice you can give me? I've heard you say quite often, just get them to school. Get them to school and then you're away. Is there any advice? I've got a 4-year-old Jack and a 6-month-old Hugh, and they are really grinding my gears at times. What's the advice for me?
School's always a good one. Get them, even if they're a year out, get them in 4 years old, straight into reception. But I think that's why I played for footy so long, because I was able to go away on weekends, and that's kind of saved me towards the end. But no, there's no tips, mate. It's just daily grind.
Just grind
I'm sure
it out.
you'll be having a few more too, Rock. So, Raz?
Well, yes, we're getting to work at the moment and trying to work on another father-son or
it's always
daughter-son.
Yep.
Daughter-son.
Plenty of
Father-daughter.
Father.
We're going to take us right back to when you first got to the club, Westy. What was it like then, and who was around with you, and has it changed a fair bit since then? Or
It hasn't changed a hell of a lot, to be honest. Obviously, coming through with Rob and Boki, obviously still around. So that was probably the best thing about it. We had a really good group of guys who I was able to play through my whole career. We obviously things have changed in the AFL landscape over that time with being able to speak your word. We kind of just sat in silence and went about our footy that way. So, but it was great. I was a little bit older once I got drafted at 20. So I worked for a year and went to uni for a year. So I kind of loved the whole lifestyle change of being able to play footy full time. So that was exciting on my front, and just to be involved in such a successful club with the guys that they had in my first year, absolute legends of the club, Treadway, Cornses, Lades, all those guys. So it was really, I guess, daunting initially, but once you're in the 4 walls, everyone's the same, and I got along with those guys really well. So always good to look back on stories like that. So.
Couple more questions, Westy. How long do you think Boki can play for? Can he get to 400?
I have no doubt he can get to 400. No kids, lives a life. If I didn't have kids, I'd still be playing till I was 50, let's be honest.
And we do have one question that's come through from a few listeners here. I think it was either Dougal Howard or Tom Cleary. They said you're a bit of a keen baseballer. Do you want to take us through that story?
I'm not sure I'm able to talk about that.
Is that a loaded question, Rob?
But
Well, I heard he's got a very good arm that may have put a ball through a window.
possibly. That, yeah, that was I think that was after my last year. We'll dress up, so I ended up coming out as a baseball player, and we got a bit frisky with how fast we were able to pitch balls, so it ended up, I think, going through the window. That wasn't my fault, though. It was a catcher.
Well, they've said that you did it deliberately is my mail, but thank you very much for giving us an insight into Justin Westhoff, where you're at now, what you're doing. Your charity work is outstanding, what you do away from the field, but also the footy club, and the impact you've been able to help on a lot of people's lives away from football, the work you do in schools as well, but also back at Port Adelaide. Great to have you. You'll be a keen watcher there tomorrow night to watch the Showdown. Thanks for coming on and give us an insight into the life of Justin Westhoff.
Cheers, man. Thanks.
Now we're into the fans' questions, Orazio, and what a first little segment that we had there. We've got a new name for the show, Rock the Raz Bar. What a nice little name that we have. We love the fan interaction on this show, don't we?
Yeah, we do. It rolls off the tongue, and we've got a few questions here. So you want to kick us off?
Yeah, we love the questions, as I said. So jump on the club socials if you want to make contact with us. YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. Anyway, they will find them. We have the best media team in the business, and with the best media team comes the ability to find my stats in Showdowns, because we touched on it earlier. We'll throw to you, Norts. What were my stats in Showdowns?
Look, I've got you playing 4 Showdowns, 4 from obviously 2018 to 2020. Mixed performances, 31 in your first Showdown and then 20 in the second Showdown of 2018. Then 41 in 2019.
Wowee.
Mind you, 13 clangers were recorded as part of that, so I'm not sure about that. In 2020, 24 disposals, 11 kicks went under 18 metres. So,
well, that's just not true, some of those stats. But I should have won 3 Showdown medals. I think you've missed a game or 2 there as well. But we'll let that slide, Norts. I think you missed one in 19 when I would have had close to 40 or 38, I think, as well. So anyway, we'll move on to the fans' questions. Orazio, who has the picky coffee order in the squad? Who's annoying to order coffee for?
Yeah, that question's a good one from Patrick. It's probably me, to be honest. I love my coffee, a bit of a coffee snob. I dish out the 3/4 latte, and the boys rip me for that one.
Oh my goodness!
But it's not an oat or an almond, or I just don't want that much milk. I don't know why that's a problem.
3/4 latte.
What's you'd be a strong latte or
just your standard flat white? For
really?
Me.
Okay, fair enough.
Short black if I need a little pick me up in the afternoon, but I've got a little Pirate Life here that is a nice little touch, actually.
That's a strong coffee. This next one's from B Flood 23, and this is a good one. I like this. You would have got under a few players' skin. So, what oppo talked the most banter, or gave you the most,
Yes, I certainly had some verbal exchanges out on the field. Got in trouble myself a couple of times. But the opposition player who had the most banter out on the ground was a player that could not play football at all. His name was Ben Hudson. He was a ruckman, and he was hopeless at the game, but he was one of the best speakers I've ever come across.
Gave you a bit of lip.
And for the fans out there that think I'm clipping him, I'm really good friends with him, and he was a teammate of mine at Brisbane later on in his career, but I certainly did not like him at all before he got there, and I could not believe Brisbane had signed him at the time. But Mitch _Van Soest?
Yeah.
Is that how would you say it?
Yep.
Oh, well, that's who have I handed the reins to at being the biggest pest at the club? Butters, Georgiadis. Who's taken it over since I've been gone?
I don't think they do it justice in terms of pests. Like, you would play pranks and there'd be a lot more going on. They're probably more just annoying. So it's probably George and Butsy. You know what they're like. They just run around and they just annoy everyone. They're just
not smart
parrots.
enough to do good pranks, though, are they? You're talking about two individuals there that really struggle in the IQ test. I mean, George scored a perfect score on his HSC or on his schooling, but he has to be one of the dumbest street people I've ever come across
He's
in my
book
time.
smart, isn't he? Yeah.
Book smart. He's one of those guys. And finally, Josh Sin. I'll let you answer this one. I'll throw it to you because what is your opinion on the 2022-23 financial budget? Talking politics, I don't know if Josh Sin's clever enough with his haircut to talk politics, but I'll throw that over to you.
Jeez, I'm not sure, to be honest. I'm not sure where he's done that. I think he's sat with a few lads and thought this would be funny, and I think he's missed.
And again, lead balloon, not clever enough, Josh, to come up with something smarter if you want to get any more involvement. But for the fans out there, I touched on it. Get involved. Ask us some questions. We'll try and get through as many as we can. Hit the club socials, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram.
Welcome back to Rock the Rasbar. Rock, we've got a bit going on this next little segment. We want your rant. What's annoyed you this week? What's happened?
Well, it's in this studio, to be quite frank. I'm very upset because, as you know, I don't get paid to do this podcast. I come in here for the love of it.
Yep.
I'm paid in Pirate Life during the show, and then a couple of KFC vouchers on the way out, a little zinger box on my way out. So last week when we were here, this studio, it's a multi-purpose room here at the club where we know that we're getting the upgrade across the road there, and we're going to have the big studio for us moving forward. But there was a fridge full of Pirate Life last week. The only people that have been in here since then is the Sandful umpires. And they've drank them all or taken them. So I got no pay. So at the moment, I've cracked that Pirate Life there, and it's hot. It's effectively like having a cup of coffee. It's that warm because it's a warm room in here. I'm sweating. I've got bullets just down the side. My pants have all got sweat on them. I'm sweating, but very disappointed that the umpires have taken the Pirate Lives out of that last week. So
maybe put a little camera to make sure they don't do it again.
Well, I'm going to have to put up do not touch sign. It should just go without saying. You can't have my Pirate Life because that's how I'm paid. Now, your review this week. I think you're going to dive into maths again.
Did you watch anything this week?
I've caught up. I'm up to date, yes.
Okay. Well, it was very much the final valves, and here we go after the, let's see how we go on the outside.
Yep.
I'll tell you what, there was a few just sort of I love yous and that sort of... It'd been together for 2 months.
6-7 weeks.
Let's just pipe it down a
like
little bit.
You would be the type of guy that would say it after a week. Let me get that out there. You would say it after a week.
That's a ridiculous comment. I tell you, Ollie Wines.
Well, funny you say that. I think it only was 2 weeks, but yes, go on.
But things like that, that's just... You're on a show for publicity. So don't come in there and say, I love you, I can't wait to spend my whole... I just don't see it as that. I just see right through it. I think it's so fake, and it grinds my gears, Rock. It really does. I'm telling you.
It grinds your gears. So that's your review. So why do you continue to watch it if it's just made up and all these people just want Instagram fame out of it?
True, but I do like the sitting there with my missus and watching them just absolutely pour their hearts out. And last night, one poured their heart out, and basically the other one just knocked them back and said, "That's not for me. I'm not the one for you."
A nice way to wind down after a long day. A little bit of mind-numbing television for you. So nice little wrap there, Raz. Thank you for the review.
Welcome back to Rock the Rasbar. Now, Rock, this is a pretty, I guess, close to your heart sort of segment, this Pig's Pranks.
Yes, it is. It certainly is. I made a career out of this outside of what I did on the field, which was not a great deal, particularly at the back end of my career here at Port Adelaide. I know.
Self-promotion, mate.
Self-promotion. I know. I'm starting to do my better work now in the transition, and I know I've upset a couple of people here, but we won't talk about that. But my pranking... It started here, and I have a fair few that we're going to get through them as the year goes on. There's some absolute top-notch ones, but I want to talk about Zach Butters first.
Okay.
So Zach has a lot of spunk about himself. He thinks he's going very well, and he always does. He walked in the doors, yes, and I'm all about self-promotion, but as we had Westy on before, when you're a young bloke coming into a footy club, you've got to be very quiet and just go about your business and not come in and make out that you're bigger and better than what you are.
Earn your stripes.
He was an early pick, so we understand that. Early picks generally, they get a bit of a head wobble when they walk through the door. So Zach and Connor, they started a little war going at me and Robbie a little bit. So me and Robbie obviously get on really well and had a bromance, and those two did as well. So I'd always get into them about that. And Zach could never do anything without Connor. But anyway, it started to unravel, and he thought it would be funny to take my bag and move my bag out of my locker, and I was in the weights room. As you can see, I used to do weights extras all the time. My arms nearly exploded one year down here at Port Adelaide. They couldn't get me out of the weights room, but Zach decided to move my bag, and I caught him in the act. So I thought, I'll just wait. I'll bite my time here a little bit. I'll wait for him to go into the weights room. He should spend actually a fair bit of time in there because he's a little runt and he hasn't put on any size in 4 years, but he's gone in there. I took his car keys. So I've gone into his locker, taken his car keys, Wandered out to the car park out the back, and the gates were still open to get onto the ground here at Alberton.
Yep.
So if anyone's ever been here, it's often locked, but you can't get on. So I've driven his car, put it in the goal square at Alberton at the far end, and just parked it there up on the ground. He's still doing weights. I've come back in, put his keys, showered up, got out of there, taken off, gone home. About 2 hours later, I get a phone call from Zach. Tom, I can't get my car. Like, what have you done? I said, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, I went ages ago.
Yep.
I'm at home. I'm feeding the kids at home. I'm having dinner. What are you talking about? And he's like, where's my car? Where's my car? He obviously walked outside, discovered that it was on the oval. What had happened in that time is the staff, the ground staff here at Alberton had left, and they'd locked up all the gates. He couldn't get his car off the oval. It had a little sleepover on Alberton Oval here one night, and that'll just teach him. If you want to take on the big dog, make sure you do it well. And he didn't do it well, and he paid the price.
Did he get you back ever? Nothing.
He's tried numerous times, but often him and Connor's car would end up down the street or around the corner, anywhere in Alberton, and they'd have to go and find it. I'd have someone pick me up, bring me back. I'd get the next person's car and move it down the street.
And it wouldn't be a problem. I'll tell you what, now there's sort of the bromance between Connor and Butsy it's Butsy and George now.
Oh, bit of friction.
Well,
Dumb and Dumber.
well,
Dumb and
Rose-
Dumber have joined each other. Fantastic.
Rose now has the dull, so spending a little bit less time with his best mate.
That does
Butsy.
happen to all of us at some point in our lives. Razio, I'm very excited by our next guest, a country Victorian, Rachel Sporn, ex-basketball superstar. I just want to run a few numbers by you as well.
Yep.
She's the current operations manager with the Port Adelaide AFLW team. She has a Medal of Order of Australia, 2-time WNBL MVP, 8-time WNBL All-Star 5-time WNBL champion, 2 times WNBL Grand Final MVP, best on ground, 3-time Olympian, 2 silvers, 1 bronze, and the number 14 has been retired at the Adelaide Lightning. What an absolute stunning resume that you have. Can you talk us a little bit through your basketball journey, I suppose, where you came from in country Victoria, how you reached those great heights throughout your basketball journey?
Yeah, thankfully I had really sporty parents, and basketball actually wasn't introduced until our little town in 1968, the year I was born. And so Murrayville, only a town of 300 people, so our sport was pretty much our lifeline and our entertainment, like most small towns. Thankfully, basketball was played. No junior grades, though. So when I was 9, I was playing with adults. And then it wasn't until I was 12 that I was elevated to A grade because I had a growth spurt. And I played with Mum for 5 years, and we won 5 premierships, which was really cool. And I guess basketball sort of chose me in some ways because I was seen playing in an association game in Bordertown, and there was a West Adelaide scout there, and she said, look, there's this tall, skinny girl called Rachel that you need to recruit for the West Adelaide Basketball Club. So they drove the 2.5 hours to Adelaide and convinced me to move here. So my first year in Adelaide was pretty tough because I was homesick. Growing up in a small town, Adelaide felt so big to me, and I realised I wasn't fit and I had so much to learn, and there were so many other great players because I dominated at home because I was so tall, not a big population. So
Just a little bit of self-promotion here. We love that. Absolutely
100%.
Dominated.
Talk us through those Olympics. That's obviously a pretty special thing to be a part of. How was that?
Amazing. And I guess 1996 Atlanta was so special because we didn't qualify for Barcelona, so that really hurt. I was 24, we went to a pre-Olympic tournament, didn't qualify, and my Olympic dream was on hold.
Yeah.
So Atlanta's so special because we ended up winning the first medal ever for Australian men and women, because we know the Boomers just recently in Tokyo won the bronze. It was their first. So we were showing the way, I guess. And then Sydney was incredible because home Olympics, it doesn't get any better than that. And I'm so excited for Brisbane in 2032. And it means that your whole family can afford to come. It's so expensive to go offshore to Olympic Games. And I know COVID has sort of put a hold to that at the moment, but so wonderful having every member of my family there and so many people. We won silver. We keep getting relegated by bloody USA. And I've had to listen to the Star Spangled Banner anthem so many times. And Athens was pretty magical because I was a mum. My daughter was 2. And I was the oldest member of the team, and I felt pretty relaxed at those games. My role was different. I was coming off the bench, and I think because I was a mum. had other things going on, but silver again. So I didn't get the fairy tale of gold. But it's incredible, yes, because you're just amongst all these peers of amazing athletes, and it's a pretty great time because Summer Olympics, male athletes at their peak, a lot of eye candy on view, and look, you just acknowledge that and think, oh my gosh, there's and in so many different body types and from all the different disciplines. So and the dining hall is probably the most special place to be because you've got over 200 countries competing. It's open 24 hours a day. It's the size of 2 football fields. It has to feed so many different types of people and for their sports, and it's just sort of where you congregate, and lots of great fun sort of happens in those areas.
I'm glad you touched on that, Rachel, because I still get that a fair bit now, the eye candy, when I walk down the street and through West Lakes. They always say, oh, look at that, a bit of eye candy there. But I want to speak now about your transition, because we know that professional sport can be quite hard to transition out of for certain people, and people have their struggles. What did you do post-basketball? You spoke about being a mum. I think you got 2 kids, is that correct? 2 kids. So you came out and you were a mum, but how did you find the transition? What did you do post-basketball in a professional sense, and how you've landed at Port Adelaide? Yeah,
so I worked at, once I did retire, so obviously my daughter was 2, I had my son 2 years after that, but I worked at Australian Major Events for 4 years on the Tour Down Under, so I was the Community Relations Officer, which I loved, and then I was with the Australian Melanoma Research Foundation for 6 years as their CEO, and I was a ambassador initially, but I was very passionate about that cause. My grandma had passed away from that, and as a parent I wanted to educate my children a lot more than I'd been educated. I got sunburnt all the time when I was young, not knowing any different. So that role was amazing, very rewarding, but not for profit. I got a bit burnt out, so I stepped away from that. And then my most recent one, and I presented to the Port Adelaide players recently, was for Sport Integrity Australia. I did that role for 3 years, and I loved that because it got me back amongst the elite sporting environment, because as you know, when you retire, Tom, you miss it.
Quickly forgotten, aren't you, as well?
Yes, quickly forgotten, just a has-been. Don't necessarily miss the training, but you miss the camaraderie, you miss that culture. So that's why I'm pretty excited that I'm back here. I've landed here.
Back in the footy. You spoke a little bit about homesickness and stuff, and you went over and played in America for Detroit. How was that? How'd you deal with being over there and being away from?
I guess because I was the league didn't start until 97, so by the time I was recruited in 98, I was 30. So homesickness wasn't so bad anymore.
A problem.
And I also had 2 Australian teammates in my team as well, and it was exciting to be part of a new franchise like the AFLW, because that's happened to me twice as a player, with Adelaide Lightning in 93 and then Detroit Shock in 1998. There's so much hype, there's so much excitement, and that's what I can't wait to see replicated in this situation. But it was just nice being a professional athlete, because you have training camp, and then you have about a 4-month season. You play 32 games in 70 days. Oh, wow. And as an athlete, you love that. You're playing the game you love, not training quite as much. And just to have amazing crowds. I think in the first couple of years, they averaged 15,000 to each game. I played in Madison Square Gardens. There's so much history. It was just amazing. Yeah, so I'm really pleased that I got to experience that.
Yeah.
Now, we did say before, you're the operations manager with Port Adelaide in the AFLW. How's that role going for you, and what excites you the most? You spoke about a new organisation and a new franchise. What excites you the most?
The absolute opportunity to start from scratch. And I'm going to be amongst all these amazing young women, and I think women's sport has always been there, but it hasn't been as visible as it should be. And that's what I love about this program, is that they're going to be so visible. We're going to see how talented they are and how skillful they are. And we have an opportunity to build that winning culture with them, and, you know, the standards and values that we all stand by, and really direct that in that direction, and hopefully have a lot of success. And I know, look, with a new franchise, that may take time, but we're just going to build a really great foundation.
Aaron Phillips?
I was going to say, who's... Have we got someone...
I'm looking at Norts here. Can I deflect that, Norts?
On the radar?
Do you know, I do have a nice story with Erin, because obviously she went down the basketball path, but when she was 12 years old. I was at the Tour Down Under. At the start was at Port Adelaide, and Greg Phillips, I knew her dad, introduced Erin to me, and she was just at a stage where she was going to have to stop playing football, and she was dominating. And because she did meet me, shook my hand, I didn't know it at the time, she thought, right, I'm going to play basketball. And I didn't know that until years later. And then lo and behold, 5 years later, she's my teammate at Lightning. She was 17, I was 34. I remember that because I was double her age. And then she was just so talented to get from starting a new sport to playing at National League level only 5 years later. Whatever I think she would have tried, she would excel at. And obviously I'm so glad that we've seen her play AFLW.
Yeah. I think you and I would get on really well, Rachel, and I think we are going to get on very well because the self-promotion from you is something that I love. You have defined Erin Phillips' life and career. It's all down to you by shaking your hand. I love that. I'm all about self-promotion on this show and everywhere.
Agreed.
The hype around the Showdown this week, obviously huge for the men's. How good's it going to be later this year to have the AFLW Showdown later on in 2022?
Oh, I'm so excited, and I just want this absolutely to come to fruition because I was actually at the AFLW Grand Final in 2019 when Adelaide played Carlton. 53,000 people there. Did you know it's the 5th highest crowd ever at a football game at Adelaide Oval? So I want us to beat that.
Yeah.
And the rivalry's already formed. You know, it gives me goosebumps. and just, you know, and because we're sticking with the tradition of never tear us apart, you know, the captain's going to wear number 1. There's just so much to be excited about. And, we're just going to invite everyone to come and enjoy it.
Rachel, thank you very much for joining us. We can feel the passion in your voice when you talked about your career and the future for Port Adelaide women. It's really exciting. So thank you very much for coming on. Thank you.
And I just have to say, I'm going to beat Tom in the footy tips in the advertiser, all right?
Oh, he's head to head.
Yeah, I think we might be even. We haven't started great.
We're not talking about the advertiser this week on this podcast. He's had a bit of strife, so I'm getting out of here. Thanks for coming on, Rachel.
Thanks, guys.
This place is different. It has a soul, a heartbeat. It gets into your senses. It's more than football. It's belonging.
Final segment, gentlemen. Rock and the Raz Bar. And, of course, it is KFC Friday night football time. Now, big bet last week on the show, and there's plenty to get through in relation to that bet. Before we get to the bet, obviously the game was involving Geelong and Sydney at the SCG, and one of the most memorable moments in AFL history.
You just made the mistake that I did. Rock the Raz Bar, not Rock and the Raz Bar Nords, but we'll let that one slide because you've only been in media for, 15, 20 years, if not longer. So, huge moment last week at the SCG. Buddy Franklin kicking his 1,000th goal was huge. Yep. I finished only 900 behind him, so it was close. But if you were in that situation, Orazio, how would you have handled it?
Probably not as well as Buddy, I think. He handled it pretty well, and obviously towards the end he got a little bit. That bloke just sort of helped him pave the way a bit for him. But I think I would have struggled, to be honest. You?
Yeah, I would have struggled as well, particularly at the end when you were out there for. I think you ended up being out there for 25 minutes by the time you got off the ground. But for me, the security factor was the biggest concern. I think. Not that they ran on the ground. I loved all that. I loved everyone getting there. But they had 38 security or something for 15,000 people. It's 2022. I see 100 security guards standing around Adelaide Oval or anywhere at any game normally. You knew that there was going to be a special occasion. They had less security than before.
And the people were halfway on the field before he'd even kicked it. So, there were no chance of stopping him.
No, but he just needed a little buffer, a little bit of security. He had a couple of teammates there, but an amazing moment, something we'll never see again, in my opinion. We'll never see 100 goals again. We'll never see 100 in a season. We'll never see 1,000 in a career. So it's a really special moment. It happens once every, I think it was around 20-odd years, if not longer, since someone's kicked, 1,000 goals. But I think it's been about 10 years since anyone kicked 100. And I think those days are finished. So outstanding moment, and it went worldwide, and it was a great moment.
I think...
You go, Raz.
Oh, sorry for interrupting. I just wanted to touch on, Phil Davis made a point. I think you needed to kick 15 years of 70 in a row to get even remotely close to that.
So you think about that for a minute. You come into the system, you're not going to kick 70 in your first year.
No chance.
So you're going to have to play for 17, 18, 19 years and kick 70 or thereabouts. It's just never going to happen again. The coaches, I spoke about it last week on one of my media forums. I've got about 15 of them, Raz, if you didn't know. I spoke about the fact that it's just never going to happen again. It's impossible.
And he downplayed it, buddy, I think. There was an interview, I think Richo asked him after the game, will it happen again? And he said he'd love to see it again, which everyone would, but I think he sort of downplayed how good that is. And I looked at Tom Hawkins' stats, and he's played, I think, 270, so, maybe 60-odd less, and he's kicked 600, which is incredible. Like, that's incredible, but he's still...
The coaches have ruined it. They will not allow it to happen anymore.
Agreed.
Now, that moment was intertwined in our Friday night footy bets, of course, delivered by KFC. Now, if I go back on my notes from last week, Raz...
Yep.
You're going to struggle here, mate. You tipped Sydney by 14 points, and you had Buddy only kicking 3 goals, being stranded on 999, whereas... Rock, Sydney by 17 points and Buddy kicking 4 goals plus, I think was your prediction. Sydney ended up winning by 30 points. We know Buddy kicked 4 goals to take him to that magic mark now, which means there's only one result. Raz, well, he's got to do something, and I think there's a bet that you want to announce.
Yes, so Friday night chicken review delivered by KFC. Arazio, I'm going to press play on this, and you're going to have to join in and sing this song.
Oh,
what?
I've got to sing the song.
Yes.
Rock the cash bar.
Get into it, Raz.
This is actually a good song, so I'll take it. How long do I have to sing?
20
now
seconds.
The king told the boogeyman, you have to let that ragga drop. Ragga drop? The oil down the desert way. Oh, it stopped. It's buffing. That's it.
It's done. It was horrible. We had to stop it anyway. That was embarrassing singing. But well done, Arazio. Bad luck on the bet. Now we move forward. We have Melbourne v Essendon tomorrow night.
Ooh, big game.
In Melbourne. Well, do you want me to go first? You went first last week, so I had the opportunity to go a little bit higher. I have the Demons to win by 57 points. Okay. I think Essendon are going to in for another reality shock tomorrow night. They're without merit, as we know, and I think Melbourne, after going Gold Coast pushing them, I think they're going to come out and make a statement.
I tend to agree. I don't think it's going to be that big. I think it's going to be in the 40-point range. Zachy Boy is a big loss for them. He's sort of a good friend of mine. I'll drop that just,
Yeah, well, you and Zach Marrow.
Yeah, but he's really influential in their ball movement. And, Chris Fagan said that they had to tag him because he was, doing a bit of damage. So it's going to hurt them a little bit, I think.
40 range. I want, 40?
43.
43. So he's going to go 43. And if we have, let's just have a little bit of fun anyway. Okay. We're going to go for a showdown medalist. We're both backing in Port Adelaide to win. You certainly are. I am. I think Port Adelaide will bounce back.
Yes.
Who's your showdown medalist?
For me, Ollie Wines.
Okay, we spoke about this, or I wrote a name down, and you said I was going to say him, so I swapped mine to Ollie, but I'll go with Travis Boak. I think he gets up for this moment, and I think he finds plenty of the football, and his delivery and his numbers are outstanding. I think he's won the last couple even, so I think he will add another showdown medal to his already ultra impressive resume. But it's been another huge episode. I mean, we've had Justin Westhoff, who doesn't normally speak. We got a few things out of him. We spoke about some pranks that took place. Your review, I really enjoyed your maths review.
Thank you, Rock. I really enjoyed Rachel, to be honest.
Yeah, that was my favourite segment today. I think me and Rachel will build a very strong friendship in years to come. We love the fan questions. So if you want to get a question, don't forget, all through the social media accounts, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, any way that you can make contact with the club. We want to be out there and answer your questions. We love the fan engagement. We've got a new name, so that's the most important thing. Rock the Raz. Huge episode.
Rock the Raz bar, mate.
Rock the Raz bar.
Come on.
We'll get there eventually.
Sure, it's first week.
That was theatre. You've got to understand that was theatre. That's why I stopped. I gave you a chance to speak. But thanks for joining us again, and we'll see you next week.
See you next week.